Ladies and gentlemen, it is another Tuesday. It is 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we are here for the next 30 minutes. We thank you once again for diving into the Dr. Patrick Flynn Show, where we get to have another engaging conversation with you, our audience. Continue to like and share, and we are very honored that you come to spend this time with us. We like being able to challenge the way that you think and approach healthcare, even business and personal growth and development. And Doc, we kind of had a crazy week, and there I am. I just heard myself. Thank you. Yes. But well, it's all right. You don't need to see yourself. Wait, here. Now you can.
There you go. No, I'm looking for all the people like Connie that's watching, all the people that are watching that way. And,
yes.
And Brandon and Ashley and all you guys that constantly tune in. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it that way.
It's been great. You traveled. You did the Hormone Connection. You were over in South Carolina.
Yes. I'm saddened because, once again, I'm done for the year. Got to spend a great time with Dr. Jeff and Dr. Rick. Some amazing docs, amazing people, just individuals that way. Got to hang out with Juanita, for example. Got to see Dr. Rick's wife, Kelly, and some of that. So it's just
nice.
It's just great to be able to travel around. Now you get to speak to amazing people.
Yes.
And that's why you see us get tagged a lot on our Facebook about how much they enjoyed the seminar that way. But I also get to hang out with Jeff and Rick and Juanita
Dr. Jeff Legree. Wow.
It makes my life really quite fun. But once again, just like when we were in Hawaii, I love you. You know, you're my best friend. But I'd rather have my wife in a bikini than you sitting next to me.
Well, I tell you what, she looks better in a bikini than I do. But I got to tell you, if people had it, well, I would never put on a bikini for you. Well, maybe I would. But, I think, do me a favor. Go to twwclinics.com and just take a look at the map of the wellness where we have offices. We are from coast to coast and even in Hawaii. So when he talks about hanging out with Dr. Jeff Legree or Dr. Kelman, we have this amazing opportunity to present you not only information on the show, but for places for you to go to seek out care, which is really why we are doing this, so that we can challenge the way people think and then take action upon the information that is given.
Okay. Does Mike have his... He's very quiet.
Who?
How are we doing for Mike's?
Ross is quiet?
No, mine's quiet.
You're quiet.
How are we doing for
How is that possible?
I don't know. Actually, thank you, Dr. Jeremy and Ashley. I'm a little quiet on there, so let's see if we can do a little bit on our sound check that way and stuff. If not, we can always go to a mic that way. So
microphone test 1 2 1 2.
All right, give me a little heads up. How you guys hear me now? As they've actually changed that now. How are we doing for sound?
How we doing? How we doing? Give us thumbs up in the comments.
I got a thumbs up on the comment there.
Otherwise, you can come over and speak into my soul right here.
Yeah, that's right. Hello.
Speak into me, which you do quite often.
How we doing? We got Fancy Nancy behind our
Command Central.
Okay, we got
beautiful. And then so you were not only over there with the other docs. I was out in Colorado with Dr. Alex Fenley and also Dr. Ashlyn and the Louisville.
Don't forget Kim, the boss.
Kim, ladies and gentlemen, Kimberly Piat. She makes stuff happen.
Yeah, she does.
I'm not going to lie. It was an amazing trip, but no, Louisville, Colorado is now on the map. We will be opening January 2nd. It is a beautiful office. Check them out on Facebook as well. And I know Dr. Ashlyn.
Though, because it's basically
northwest
of Denver shortly.
Yeah, right? More north with a slight west bend. It's not too far from Boulder. You've got a lot of things. You got Boulder, you've got Louisville, you've got Broomfield, Lafayette. Just a great area. And I tell you what, I think that one point in time in my life, I want to live somewhere where it could snow 2 feet and the next day be gone.
Yes, that's beautiful.
It was beautiful. You ready for your first question?
I think so.
You think so? Are we good with everything? Awesome.
Yes, because we got a special guest.
We do have a special guest, and they're going to this question is going to dovetail even into this amazing story of life change and journey to wellness. So here we go. Can you eliminate full-blown psoriasis and the use of methotrexate?
They really want me to answer that question?
It's probably going to be one of these one-word responses, right?
Wait, if I answer yes or no, they know what I'm answering the question for.
Right.
Okay, so let's go through the partial that question. Break it down a little bit.
Okay. Can you eliminate full-blown psoriasis?
No, stop right
period.
There. Stop right there. Okay.
Question mark.
So, for example, there's one thing, and that's why then they dictate what medication they're using. Okay, you got to step back and think about this. What is psoriasis? It's kind of funny because our guest today, you're going to see some pre and post of their child that way. Okay? In general, once again, anything to do with psoriasis, once again, you can have a little bit of hormonal thing, but it's really an immune factor.
Sure.
Okay?
Yep.
So therefore, most medications, including methotrexate that way, which, for example, has no effect on the skin. Let me say that again. But you say, Doc, wait. It changes it. Yeah, I didn't say it doesn't change it, but it's really not a skin medication.
Come on.
It's an immune medication. Okay, so start there. The reason why that person actually has some progress with methotrexate, because it knocks the immune system down, because psoriasis is nothing more than a representation of your skin's inflammatory response. So therefore, see, because always again, you're going to see with our mom today that has a special guest that way with their child, skin horrible. Psoriasis, bleeds, everything that way. And once again, you'll see the post picture that way. Never once did I ever address his skin.
We found
the inflammatory triggers to his skin and stuff and start to avoid those, and guess what happens? And then you build the immune system back to normal. So in essence is the question this, and if I can find out, or anyone else way doctor can find out the triggers to inflammation for the skin that way, the need for the methotrexate will go away.
Disappears.
That's the success that we have that way.
And the model, which is we don't guess, we test.
But on the flip side, so if you think about it this way, what she really wanted to know, or him, whoever sent the question that way, what they really want to know is they're looking for a replacement because they understand the devastating effects of the medication. Well, that's a wrong question, because a lot of people say, Doc, what could you give them?
Sure.
Wrong thinking. Remember, this whole show and everything we do is about changing the thinking that way. The first is, what is psoriasis? It's not a skin issue. The skin's taking a beating. It's an immune issue. That's why they give you an immune-based medication that way. So once again, once you start finding out what's aggravating the immune system, and it's very common. Foods are the number one thing that aggravate the body, period, unless you're a woman, because that's your husband.
So it's an external response to an inward issue.
You missed that one.
Come
I just
on.
gave a good hormonal response.
I know. Oh, I'm sorry.
You laugh for me. You're supposed to laugh at all my jokes.
I don't get paid enough to do that, but I would wear a bikini. Yes.
Yes, there you go. But see, that's the thing. So what happens is moving them away from those immune triggers now gets the immune system to normalize. Methotrexate, for example, will knock down the immune system, but it doesn't get it normal. Do you understand? That's why when people always say, Doc, what about this? I'm like, ask the simple question. No matter what you do, medically or naturally, does it get your body back to normal? If it does not, it's a short-term palliation to your symptomatology. That's it.
So are they really just wanting to eliminate the psoriasis and not go inward and potentially have to deal with a bigger issue that might...
doctor, they're dermatologists.
To correct that?
One of the most idiotic professions in the world next to a pediatrician is a dermatologist. Really? I think they're morons.
Come on, explain.
Well, because here's what happens. Any of you guys ever have a skin condition? They identify the skin condition.
Yes.
And they say, look, here's your skin condition. And it's the same medication. It's always some immune change that way. Or it's an antibiotic. It's always something affecting the immune system that way. It doesn't matter if it's cystic acne. It doesn't matter if it's psoriasis. Doesn't matter if it's, even if it's shingles. Do you see what I'm saying? They're always a responsive profession. But people say, Doc, but they're bleeding, they hurt. Yeah, trust me, this mom that you're going to meet today, her child bled like crazy. To the point we had to even worry about anemia, okay? But once again, if I just become the natural Band-Aid, I'm no different than a dermatologist that's always looking for an outside change.
Right.
So once again, it's really funny. They're popping up all over Green Bay like candy. You know what I'm saying? All over the place. And so they're everywhere. And guess what happens? NEW dermatology. Well, once again, I'm not saying they're bad people, but they're ridiculous on their thinking.
Sure.
Because once again, all they're going to do is medicate you. And one thing about any skin cream, remember, guys, listen. Orally or skin, it still goes to your liver. And that's why methotrexate, look at it.
So damaging.
You can only take it for so long because it destroys your liver. Who said so? The medication did. That's why they have to test your liver when you take skin medication for a while, because it's so toxic.
Sure.
Who said so? The people who made it.
Yeah.
That's the point and stuff like that. And I know that makes some of you guys uncomfortable because you went to dermatology here in Green Bay and they helped your skin. Yeah, you still take your medication, they didn't help your skin. Yeah, you still deal with these problems, they didn't help your skin. They palliated your symptomatology that way. So,
difference between eczema and psoriasis, if you don't mind me asking.
Well, remember, really what it comes down to is actually it's a reaction within the body, so causal factors.
Gotcha.
Now, once again, there isn't much different clinically on there. That's why people say psoriasis, eczema. No, they do have different causal factors, and you can see different changes in the skin. It's just what mounts actually on the skin that way.
Gotcha.
So it's quite simple. It really is. And that's why most skin conditions are not that difficult to take care of if you find the inflammatory triggers. If you do not, you're just baiting it and actually just dealing with it naturally or medically that way, which has minimal success over the time period that way.
Well, I'm not a doctor, so I guess, and even for me, though, the best way to describe it's an external response to an inward issue, so they got to go inward. They got to get tested.
Yes.
It's always, and which always comes back to every show we do, is we don't guess, we test.
Well, here, do you understand that? And think about this.
Inflammation, we talked about it a couple weeks ago.
Bring up,
Yep.
the mom that we're talking today, their guest today. But think about this, okay? Whenever you look at medical practices, Everybody's always looking for the new experimental treatment, the new this, the new this, the new this, the new this. You know what's changed in 20 years of practice for me? With the exception of some diagnostics, like some different labs that came out, nothing.
Not a whole lot, yeah.
Nothing. The clinical results are universal across the country. It's kind of cool, and it's kind of neat because what happens is, and not every person is the same at all. It's very individualized care that way, and what it does, because they built on a false premise.
Yes.
They did. You know what I'm saying? Our body's based on physiology and how it works, which is basically you can read in a book, but they don't think that way. Just like for example, they've trained us to think so outside. What can I take?
Yes.
The natural movement is no different. What can I take naturally from the outside? Once again, it's a short term. It's validating a symptom. That's all it's doing.
Yep. Well, we're excited once again because this story that you're about to hear and the information that you're about to get, it's amazing information, but it's also a real story of a mother's journey to health. And well, it's not only for herself and for her family, but in particular her son.
Sure.
And this is an amazing story, and there's a lot of emotion to it, but there's also, I can't wait to see some of your responses, because even talking about it before, like you said, this isn't here to always make you feel good about yourself.
Some of the things I'm going to talk about this story is going to frustrate people.
That's right.
Even people that like what we have to say.
That's right. Raw and uncensored.
Exactly. So
with that, ladies and gentlemen, please clap your hands, even though we can't hear you, and bring to the stage, golf clap, Stephanie Duford. Come on over.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. Welcome to the Dr. Patrick Flynn Show.
Thank you for having me.
Doc, this is a longtime friend.
Yes.
And also client. So why don't you go ahead and take the lead on this one, because you know the story.
When I met Larry, her husband, and Stephanie that way, their young son, and actually, Nancy, can you throw up the picture of him and see what happens is this. As two good parents, they were devastated. And remember, Stephanie will tell you, I wasn't the first doctor they saw. Actually, the funny part is they spent more time in Children's Hospital than any place else, okay? And it's kind of interesting because what ended up happening is this child, okay, Frankie is by far the most allergic child I've ever seen in history, and even doing a ton better, he's still worse than most people that ever have to go through in their life. So that's why the story is quite intense that way. Now remember, when she called and made an appointment with us that way, I first didn't believe her. Because she's like, my child has over 100 IgE allergies, anaphylactic. I'm like, that can't be possible. I thought that the staff made a mistake. I've never seen that. I've seen 6 or 7. I've seen some very allergic, death-defying, things that can happen that way. But when she said 100, I thought she meant 100 IgGs because I haven't seen that before. She wasn't lying.
Can you define the two real quick, IG and IgG?
You got the different immune responses that way.
Yep.
You'll never die from an IgG reaction. You can die from an IgE reaction, an anaphylactic response. They're both allergies. One's just more intense as far as you can die. Now, if you see Frankie's picture on there, that's what he came in like, okay? There we go, talk about the skin issues that way. But here's the point. So she came in, and when she handed me the paper from, it was the hospital, right? The Children's Hospital.
UW-Madison.
Yeah, UW-Madison, okay? So seeing at UW-Madison, over 100 anaphylactic responses that way, and I was like, oh my goodness, it actually floored me. Because at that time, I've never seen a child like this. And it's kind of interesting because what's the reason why we have Stephanie here today, what she's had to go through as a mother, criticism, okay? What she has to go through, it's normal life to her, but just what he would have to go through a day. When people say to me, well, Doc, I can't change my diet. If Stephanie did not change Frankie's diet, he would have been dead. He almost died once. Do you know what I'm saying? So this is a very emotional story for her that way. So she can kind of give the recap on it that way. And there's been some beautiful changes with him. Nancy can throw up the next picture of him now today, okay? And he's a growing boy like that. He's developing extremely well that way. He's come a long way, but we still got a ways to go. But once again, even the University of Wisconsin-Madison said that his allergies can't change. Well, we proved them wrong with that. No, Doc, the UW medical system, they're amazing. They still think wrong.
Sure. And
they put her through hell. So.
And well, today when I was talking to Ross when I had got here, we initially, I think it was like at 5 to 6 months, I was nursing exclusively. I always nursed him exclusively until 2 years, just shy of. And so I think it was around maybe 5 months where he was born like a 10.5-pound child. He was a very big boy. Very big boy. And
Larry's how tall?
6'3".
Yes,
6'3".
Larry's pretty
tall.
Wow.
Yeah, so anyways, he was a very big boy, and pediatricians and doctors like early on, he's big, he's going to want solids, he's hungry, so to my probably poor judgment, I started solids with him, I think, at like 6 months. And immediately upon me doing that, it turned a switch. It turned a switch. So we introduced per what I thought was really great. I did it per Weston Price. I did, egg yolks and sweet potatoes,
let me
avocado.
interject. Stephanie was a very, very health conscious person way before this. So she wasn't coming from, bonbons and ho-hos, you know what I'm saying, there. She was eating
I tried to do all the right things.
That's right.
I tried to do all the right things, even pregnancy and birth and thereafter, and lots of reading, and felt very, very educated and on my game. And so we introduced per Weston Price, and I gave him, one of the first food was egg yolks, and it was like, I blew this kid up. Like his mouth, his cheeks, his everything just immediately just became so red. And then I think the next food was sweet potatoes, and he has an FPIES. Now we've learned to sweet potatoes, which is, you could probably go into what an FPIES is, but it's a vomiting response, and they get very low blood pressure, and they can die from it. And so he would throw up nonstop for hours and hours and be so limp and could barely, knowing what I did now, if I had an EpiPen, I should have administered or had him to an ER, but I didn't know at that point.
And you were feeding him an organic sweet potato.
Which
is an organic sweet potato, And I was
matter
nursing
whether it's
him.
organic or not.
Nope.
Right, and I was nursing him, and I had a whole foods beautiful diet and paleo, and everything I was doing was so right, but it just wasn't right for him.
Thank you.
And so then what I knew, like mother's instinct, I knew something was not right. So I called UW-Madison, and we brought him in for testing. And because he was so little, they said that they would only test the 8 common allergens because at that age, that it's not a legitimate allergy because they drop off.
Exactly.
So they scratch tested him, his favorite.
Do you want to throw something?
So they scratch tested him, a 6-month-old. So they poked him up and down his back.
At 6 months.
At 6 months.
You should see the pictures. I've seen them.
And it was horrific, you guys. It was like goose eggs like this, up and down both sides.
It was devastating.
He was allergic to every single one of the 8 that they had tested. And so I left there that day, and they said, pull all those foods out of your diet. So I'm nursing, or actually, no, they didn't tell me that. They told me to stop nursing.
Yes.
They told me to stop nursing and feed him formula. A hypoallergenic Infamil or something like that formula. And I said, I won't do that. And he said, well, then you need to remove all those foods from your diet. I said, gladly, I'll do that. So I removed every single food from my diet. I donated all my beautiful breast milk to a mother in need. And then we got about probably a month or 2 in, and he started spiraling down again. And so then I called UW-Madison allergist back again. I said, he's really not doing well again. Can I bring him back in? He said, okay, we need to do a full panel. So this time they test him. They did scratch again. They did animals. He was deathly allergic to dogs. We had 2 dogs at that point. And then they did all the food panel through blood, I think, because there were so many that they couldn't do it through scratch. They still did try to do it through scratch. They tortured him that way.
I want to talk about that for just 2 seconds. See, that's why people say, well, doc, you do allergies by blood. Yeah, because once again, they're more accurate than actually the scratch test that way. And when you have so many allergies, you can't do that much scratch testing because you won't get proper reactions. So they pulled his blood, and that's when they found over 100.
Well, yeah, so the immune response to those was like greater than 100 for some of those, which is so deadly. So I got the call one day when I was in my car from the allergist at UW-Madison, and he said, he read to me all of them on the phone, and I'm in a parking lot trying to write them down and trying to like not choke and cry and figure out how the heck I'm going to do this. So I get off the phone with him. Well, he's the same thing. I think you really need to consider stopping nursing. And this child is what we call an elemental child. And I said, what is an elemental child? An elemental child is a child or a human being throughout their life that survives on formula of some type, okay? So they can never eat a solid food. They live on a formulation to just keep them going. I said, I won't do that. So I said, I'm going to continue nursing, and I'm going to eat the only 8 foods that he has. So And his diet was 8 foods.
It was.
And you guys, I cut it out and I nursed him until he was 2. And hell or high water, I was not quitting that journey. And he actually made me at 2 because he was still reacting a little bit. It wasn't, he came so far, but there was still something that was throwing his immune system. And finally, I wanted to take him till 3, but finally at 2, he said, you know what, we got to be done with this. Let's switch him over to hemp milk. And we did that.
It also personally affected you, though, too, doing what you were doing.
So then I got down to like 98, 100 pounds because I was nursing this 10-pound child who was nursing around the clock because he was so sick.
Hungry.
And hungry, but sick, and that's what he would do to soothe himself.
Yes.
His skin was weeping. It was open head to toe. He had staph infections. He didn't feel good. So to soothe himself, he wanted to nurse, and I was nursing him through the night until 2 years old, like 6 to 8 times. I was up like every hour and a half. So I got so famished and just thin that he was like, you got to be done.
Well, and there's also one thing that I also want to come in here. As Stephanie would tell you, and everybody knows, I'm a massive component of breastfeeding as long. But the one thing that I noticed when I started testing her, she had some inflammatory things going to her breast, and her child couldn't handle it. See what happens? So that was the thing. Trust me, I didn't ever want Stephanie. Stephanie could have breastfed till she was 5. But see, that's where testing comes important. Because I tested Frankie, we tested the mom, she even got that part. And guess what happened? She was inflammatory a little bit in her breast milk, and even though the breast milk is the best nutrient, it could cause him to react a little bit. We noticed that.
And probably because my system was down.
Yes, exactly. Because she was passing that immune response to him that way. You don't hear that much in doctors, do you?
No, you sure don't.
Even Nancy, even Fancy Nancy's like, what? I've never heard this before.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Doctors don't think this way. So go on.
So fast forward, then I think we stopped nursing, and I started making him hemp milk, and I still do that to this day. I make him homemade hemp milk, and he's done really well with it. Well. And I think now we're up to about 14 or 15 foods, which is not a lot. But for the first 3 years, the only protein he could have was fish.
Fish.
So you guys, I drive 2 times a week, 45 minutes one way to get his fish. I will stop nowhere for this child. I mean, I won't. I refuse when people say that they have allergies, but then they eat a lot of processed food. Yes. And I just will not go there. This is not going to heal my child. And I still, though he has such a small window of foods that work for him, I do a whole foods diet. I make everything from scratch. And it means my family I cook 6 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for him, and breakfast, lunch, and dinner for my husband. And we eat separately. We have to because he has an anaphylactic allergy, so I cannot cross his pans. He's got his own dishes. He's got his own pans, his own silverware, his own wash rags, his
own soap.
Everything. His own everything.
Remember, Stephanie doesn't touch anything that's bad. Do you follow me that?
Right.
They're thinking, well, no, Larry has McDonald's over there. And no, they're eating fantastic that way. I'd love if most of our patients ate like Stephanie and Larry did and stuff like that, and Frankie.
And I think it is hard because people looked, like when Frankie was little and he was so raw, you would not believe the looks that I got from people and the way I was mistreated and what are you doing to your child?
Because when Stephanie came here that way, he had a laundry list, and we start to get his immune system back normal, and we start to see them drop off his list, which Madison wouldn't actually really even test him again because they wouldn't believe that his immune system would start to normalize and he'd start to lose someone. She had the battle with the doctors, and trust me, as you can tell, she never backed down. So then they got them. We just had a battle with the doctor just recently that way.
Still going.
Because they said, well, we don't want to test those ones because they've been normal. I don't care if they've been normal. I still want them tested so we can make sure that he can still continue to have it, because if he has a bad response during an emergency room, he could die. Okay, so as it's progressive. Now here's one thing that's interesting. This is the part that I want people to know when it comes to not only allergies itself, but the concept of people that suffer, okay? She's been massively criticized. One day she texted me because she was actually literally in tears because Stephanie, once again, will do and go and search, and her and Larry will go get the stuff for their family. Well, once again, during the summer, sometimes farmers markets have wonderful things there, okay? But here's what happens. Larry has a very good job, so he's gone. He does a lot of stuff that way. So Stephanie has to take Frankie with him that way. Went to the farmers market. Tell him what happened. And tell him the criticism you got massively from this.
Well, we live in a town where dogs are accepted at the farmer's market, and I have no problems with dogs. I just want to put that out there because I had 2 dogs, and we found out at about a little before a year that Frankie was deathly allergic to dogs, and we had to make the hard decision to get rid of our dogs. Yep. So I do not have any ill feelings against dogs. I love dogs, and my son loves dogs, and he's deathly allergic to them. But so we go to the farmer's market, and it is a kind of free-for-all. Like, we're one of the few farmer's markets that can have dogs, and dogs are everywhere. They're crossing leashes. There's big dogs. There's little dogs. They're snipping at each other. They're coming up under the table to smell the produce. They're everywhere. And so I talked to the lady. They have like a concierge at the farmer's market or whatever, and I just said, is there any way that we can have like a dog-free market, or the dogs stay on the sidewalks, or some way to exist? Because this is like scary for me here, trying to protect my son while getting him the food that I need to feed him. And, you know, and I shouldn't have to choose, like, should I go to the farmer's market, or should, you know, I've had people say, just go to the grocery store. I don't want to. I want fresh, local produce, and this is where I want to shop. And I don't mean it in a bad way, but I feel like there should be a way for people to coexist. Well, I totally got nailed to the wall by a lot of people.
And even people that were, quote, friends of hers.
Right, that I am an ill parent for taking my child to a place that wouldn't be safe for him, for I need to make better decisions for my child, for those kind of things.
You almost got off Facebook. I convinced her not to, because she got a massive amount of criticism. Like, Stephanie, don't. You have a great story of a mom that's willing to do. You and Larry will do anything for your child. Guys, you know this. If you have a child, you do anything for them. It's just that what happens is they've taken the proper steps to get Frankie even better than he was when I first saw him. That way, continually doing this stuff. You know, it's kind of funny because, no joke, Stephanie has her supplementation realm, her medicinal herbs that make it, like she said before, we can't live without Albizia. Aren't we giving that away today?
Yes, we are.
Okay, we're going to let Stephanie give that away today. But I do this. But here's one thing. On our journey that way, trying to just be a healthy family that way, it comes with massive criticism. You know what I'm saying? And you're thinking it'd be totally opposite. You think people would care more about a young boy than a dog. You know what I'm saying? Like I told you, I'm going to tick some of you guys off. Stop it. It's a dog. Do you know what I'm saying? I love my animals. My cat died at 18 years old. Guess what? I was saddened. Sure. But if a child died over my cat, I think I'd be a little bit more devastated over that. You know what I'm saying? And it's like like she said she's not asking for something big that way. But
I think the thing that's really important to take away from this is that IgE responses are not make-believe. They're not a sniffly nose. They're not a scratchy throat. They will kill you a little bit. You don't need to have a dog lick you. You don't need to eat a whole peanut butter cup.
The wind can blow that way.
So Frankie has airborne anaphylaxis.
That's right.
So when I'm in a grocery store, I need to stay very clear of the nut section. So I've had people say to me, well, why are you holding your child? He's 4, he's in a grocery store. Yes, I have to.
He runs that way.
If he gets by an area where there's open contaminants and he gets a whiff of it, he has airborne egg allergy, garlic. Yep. So I don't keep those things in the house. We eat a very limited diet to keep him safe, because I can't safely cook with those things and guarantee that it's not going to set him off and trigger him.
That's right.
And so I just need you to know that IgE is a very, very real thing, and it is life or death. It is not an uncomfortableness. It is a life or death thing.
And it was really tough because when I first sat there, I said, okay, we know the IgEs. Wait till we get the IgGs. And that's what made it even tougher for her, because her immune system was responding that way. And then once again, we actually checked, we drew his blood, we checked his balance, his immune system. It was so skewed to one side. Do you understand? So as we started to bring that back, that's when we started to see some of those allergies, the IgEs even drop off, okay? And that's why the doctors have such a hard time with Stephanie, because they don't believe it can happen. And she's like, no, you've seen it. We've done multiple tests through the University of Wisconsin-Madison that way that have shown it that way. And so it's just interesting how she always has to battle for the most simple concepts that what happens, because once again, it's not publicly accepted that way. Live Larry and her life in a day once, see what I'm saying? And during, even though his allergy test has gotten better, even IgE that way, even on his best day, it's still worse than I've ever seen any child, even adult. Do you understand? So this venture of Stephanie and Larry it's been heartbreaking. Do you understand?
But at the same time, like I was saying to both of these guys, is he's like the most normal child
he's awesome
too.
Kid.
So that is always a struggle for me. I shouldn't say struggle, but there's one side that I've worked so hard to make him have. Larry and I have both worked so hard to have him have normalcy, to have him do the things that other people do.
Picture of him too. He's so cute.
And be normal. But then there's this other side where people don't think it's real, because I do work my ass off to get him there. So
I'm not the only one that swore on the show.
Sorry.
Yes,
but,
well done. Well done.
There's that fine balance, just because of get him to thrive, and then realizing that this is real.
There's one point I also want to do too. When Frankie came in and he was so inflamed, guess what happened? He was, he's growing to be a big boy, but let me tell you this, his growth really took off when I actually started to calm that inflammation down in him that way. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, I'm like, holy mackerel, Stephanie and Larry, he's growing like a weed. You think inflammation won't stunt your growth? You're wrong. You know what I'm saying? Because his body was always trying to deal with all these conditions and all the immune response that way. It didn't worry about growing. So
but even so, he's never been failure to thrive. And everybody,
mentally he's been amazing.
We have a caseworker through our insurance. They make you when you have somebody that has like extreme issues.
Right.
And they were out to get me for a long time. They said, this child is going to be failure to thrive. Are you tracking him? What are you feeding him? You're not giving him enough. And I said, he's always met his markers. He's never been failure to thrive, ever, never once.
No, and that's the part. But see, they put those judgments on her, and they don't understand because they don't understand what we do. They don't understand what she was doing because it's not the norm. And I said, you want to know how it becomes the norm? Actually, once again, anaphylactic egg allergy, okay? Myself. I have to avoid eggs. I have one of those. He had 100 at one time that way. So that's where it's kind of scary in this process that way. So, man, we could go on for hours on this that way.
How would you respond real quick, though, to someone says, oh, I just can't do it. I just can't do it.
Yes, that's true.
I was saying this earlier to you. Like, I would help anybody who was in this position that reached out to me and wanted pointers on how to do it. But I'm also I'm not soft. Like, you can do this. I'm in a lot of allergy groups and forums and talk to a lot of people. I've never met anybody yet that has as many things as Frankie does. So if I am able to get around these things and give him normalcy and keep him thriving and keep him good, I think anybody can do it.
Yes. Can do it. They really can. So now, we went a little long today because I said this story, I'd go for another half an hour, just all the stories that I could tell you about Larry and Stephanie and their journey that way. But understand this way. Frankie is a wonderful kiddo. He comes in and talks to me like crazy. He always has. So I said he never had any mental aspects that way because what she did with him physically. I would tell you this. If she wasn't so good, he would have had some mental delays. You know what I'm saying? That's basically what autism is, okay? And then the great thing about it is this. So now that journey is going to continue. He's going to continue to grow. His immune system is going to continue to change. We're going to continue to test him and actually see those allergens start to come down. And what did you make here today there, Stephanie?
Oh, I made Dr. Patrick to try some of our laundry soap that we use. So,
Christy, we got more laundry soap from Stephanie.
Yeah,
awesome.
So it's just a raw laundry soap and soap berries. I don't know if anybody has heard of them.
Soap berries are awesome.
But a lot of people don't like them and say that they don't work, and it's because they're probably not used right.
And if they go bad fast too.
They go bad fast because it's raw, it's real, but there's no additives. So this is just a soap berry detergent, and I started making this for Frankie when he was a baby because even like natural, clean ingredients still were affecting him. So this is just soap berries, and it's just like a fermented, cooked down soap berry that we use for detergent. No additives at all.
My wife and I thank you because I thank you so much for the present. I appreciate it that way and stuff with that. And just remember, it is Christmas. If you do want to send the no, but also now what happens is this. I do want to talk about, for example, like we were talking about Albizia for Stephanie and her son that way. Remember, the cool thing about it is this. As we're shifting that immune system that way, they can't live without Albizia. Why?
No.
Because Albizia, for example, helps to start to normalize the immune response that way. It's almost, really, if you look at all the medical journals, it's almost like a natural Benadryl. And I don't like to use it at that mindset that way, but it starts that immune response that way. So what we're doing today is we're giving away a bottle, and Brandon's going to bring the drawing over here, and Stephanie is going to draw and give Ross the thing. I always say out of the drawings because, again, say, Doc, pick my name. Now, we'll let Stephanie pick the name. We're going to give you guys a free bottle of Albizia. Once again, just send your address to Fancy Nancy here.
Beautiful.
To this page that way. And Ross, who does Stephanie pick here?
Here we go. Why don't you say it?
I do. Nicole Hansey.
Nicole.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Beautiful, beautiful. Nicole, well, you're going to enjoy this. It's a beautiful thing. We'll make sure that it gets it off to you.
There was times where I was going through like a bottle a weekend. Do you remember that?
I remember that.
When Frankie was reacting and he was little, and I would be texting Dr. Patrick, and what do I do? Do I take him into the hospital? And we were administering Albizia every 20 minutes.
Every 20 minutes, yeah.
20 minutes until we could bring it down. So sometimes that would mean like going through a bottle like that in 3 or 4 days.
But with no EpiPen.
With no EpiPen.
See, that's the thing.
And knock on wood, this has been our holy grail. Yeah. I mean, really, honestly, it's saved us so many times.
Yep, there's been some wonderful benefits that way. So. Oh man, I wish we'd go on for an.
Frankie.
You got a gift, man. You got to open the gift, and you got a card too.
Yes. Oh, this is the best part. You want something that warms my heart? Frankie wrote me a card.
That's awesome.
It's actually, he always says the coolest things when he's in here that way. So Frankie, if you and Dad are watching right now, where's Frankie right now?
He's with my mom.
Oh, Mom, if you're watching right now and stuff like that, Frankie, I so appreciate. Oh, look at this snowman. He is such a good kid and stuff like that. You and Larry have done a great job. Oh, Happy New Year. Thank you, Frankie. I do appreciate this way. Thank you for the gift. I really appreciate it. Stephanie, me, and Christy, thank you for this gift that way. Nicole, great job for winning.
Absolutely.
Ross,
and thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to share this with it.
But also, I would like to do this just because Stephanie has a lot of knowledge. You think I'm joking? You guys know I've referenced there. I'll actually say, because I'll do is this. She helped me find, I'm building a new house. She helped me find the best air purification system. I said, I text her and say, hey, Stephanie, what do you guys have? And no joke. And so it's kind of cool. So I learned that from her.
Yep.
I really did. So
if you have questions, ask.
Questions, you're on Facebook still, right?
Yeah. You can find me there, message me.
Yeah, Stephanie Duford. Okay.
Yes.
So I said D-U-F-O-R-D that way and stuff like that. And if Stephanie doesn't, then message Larry. Just kidding. Larry's like, no,
right. Don't do it.
No, but it's kind of cool. So Ross, what do you got there?
We thank you so much for taking the time to really sit and dial in and listen to this amazing woman's journey to wellness. Now, it's not just hers, it's her family's, but it's also her son's. But this is the beautiful thing about getting information. What do you do with it? This is a woman who has transformed the way she thinks about healthcare, not because she's selfish, not because she has an agenda. It's because she is selfless and loves her family, loves her son. And that's why we do this show, is because we know that if you get the right information and you hear it, there's something that could be life-changing if you act upon it. So this is a story of action. Maybe yours will be too.
Yes.
We thank you for joining. Like and share this. Spread the message of the Wellness Way. This is a great story to get out there. Maybe there's somebody else who needs to hear this so that they too can take that next step to action to get the clinical results they're looking for. And we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time.